Hi, welcome to Life Expressions. I'm your host, Charie Ginete-Ilon. Life Expressions is about asking people their stories and their journeys and finding out the purpose and meaning of life. And today we are very blessed because I am with my boss, the best boss ever. I'm his executive assistant at CanadaWide Media. He's a living legacy of one of Canada's true entrepreneurial success stories. He is the chairman and CEO of Western Canada's biggest independent publishing company, CanadaWide Media Limited. He's also an internationally acclaimed professional speaker. He's an author of 23 bestsellers. He is a community leader, a respected man, a well loved man. He has 3 honorary doctorate degrees from Simon Fraser University, Royal Roads University, and BCIT. And he is also an honorary fellow of Douglas College. What more could this man ask for? What more could he would want from life? Well, we would find out, and we would find out his story, how he got to be where and who he is today. Please allow me to introduce the person who has done so much for British Columbia. He has gotten the highest award in the province, and that is the Order of British Columbia. He has also been awarded the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal. Also, he has received the Golden Gavel Award from Toastmasters International. It is my honor and privilege to interview my boss, the best boss ever, Dr. Peter Legge. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Charie. You are very kind indeed. Very kind indeed. Thank you.
Thank you so much for guesting in my podcast, Life Expressions.
My pleasure. This is kind of a turn of phrase, as I would say, turn of bodies of what we're doing, what we are doing. So thank you. Honored to do this for you.
Yeah. Peter, tell us, how did you start CanadaWide Media?
Well, CanadaWide Media, as of last Friday, the last Friday of the month of July, we celebrated our 45th anniversary as a company. And so 46 and a half years ago, I was working at a radio station in Langley, CJJC. I was the sales manager. And I thought I was doing a pretty good job. We were a small station, but we were outbilling some of the Vancouver stations. And the manager was Joe Chesney. He owned the radio station. And he let me be in charge of sales. I was responsible for that. Had a great sales force. And so my job was to ignite them and sell the radio time for a given month or a period or a year. So we were doing a great job. I thought we were doing a great job. And we were outbilling many Vancouver stations. One afternoon, about 2:00, we remember these days pretty clearly as if it happened yesterday, because in my mind, it did happen yesterday. There was a memo that went to the staff from Joe that simply said, Peter Legge is no longer working for this radio station. It will be business as usual. Kind regards, Joe. In other words, I was fired. And I had to clean out my desk and go home. And that was it. No severance pays in those days. The check that I got that day, that was it. So the radio station was in Langley. We lived in Coquitlam. And it was a long drive to get home. I drove as slowly as I could, because I knew I had to face my wife, Kay, and tell her husband has just been fired. So I pulled into the driveway, got out of the car, went into the house, gave her a kiss on the cheek. She said, everything okay today? And I said, yeah. But she could sense right off the bat that there was something wrong. So I said, I'll get changed and let's have a glass of wine and we'll talk about the day. We sat down and I thought, well, I might as well get it right instantly. And I said, sweetie pie, I got fired today. Dead silence. Not a word. Not a word. And then she said, that's good. That's good. You shouldn't be working for somebody else. You should be working for yourself. So what I think you should do tomorrow is when you get up in the morning, shower, shave, shine your shoes, get dressed up to the nines, and go out there and find a business that you could ignite and do wonders with, and it'll be fine. I thought, wow, that's the kind of encouragement a husband needed. That's what I needed at that particular time. I didn't need to be any more downtrodden than I was, and she lifted me up. So I did exactly that. I went out the next day and I discovered that Al Davidson, who was the #1 sportscaster in Western Canada, worked for CKNW, owned a magazine called Al Davidson's This Week, which had gone broke that week, coincidentally. And so I phoned him and I said, Al, would you like to have lunch today? So we had lunch at the Caribou Pub shopping center. And we talked about, I just got fired and he'd lost his magazine. And I said, why don't you sell it to me? He said, I'm happy to sell it to you. It was called Al Davidson's This Week in those days. And so for $70,000, I bought this magazine. Now, in fairness, I didn't have 70 cents, let alone $70,000, but at least it was mine. So we did the paperwork and away we went. Now, in those days, as it is today, we published 2 weeks ahead of time. And so for the next 2 weeks, it was still called Al Davidson's This Week. But on the third week that I owned it, we changed the name to TV Week Magazine. And it has remained TV Week Magazine for all these 45 years. And it is the most, it's the best magazine we have in terms of contribution to the company and helping paying the staff. And it has carried us through these 45 years. That's how I started CanadaWide Media.
Yeah. And now you have several brands. Among them are BC Business Magazine, Vancouver Magazine, and Western Living Magazine, and bcliving.ca.
Yes.
How has it been for the past 45 years?
Well, like most independent businesses, we've had great staff, and we have great staff today. We've had staff that didn't work out, which is unfortunate, but that's the way it is. But some years it was easy, and some years it was more of a struggle. But when you make a commitment long term, you know that these struggles are going to happen because life doesn't always go downhill. Sometimes you have to go uphill. You have to fight the battles. And so that's what we've done over the years. We've had some very good years. We've had some struggling years, but we thought we needed to grow. We needed to add new product. So it's been like most businesses. Anyone watching this would agree that not every year is exactly the same or is better than last year. You want it to be, but it just doesn't work that way. So we've had to go through the battles, and we've won every battle so far, and we'll continue to do so.
What is the most important business practice to you, Peter?
Basically, the most important business practice is honesty, straightforwardness. Don't beat around the bush. Tell it like it is, and you can do it nicely. You don't have to be yelling and screaming at people, and that's what we've done. We've had good years, we've had bad years, we've had terrible years, but we knew that neither the good or the bad or the ugly lasts forever. So we've just found a way to get through those struggling times, figure out what went wrong, how do we correct it, and we've made those corrections pretty instantaneously and move forward. Probably in the 5th or 6th year, we decided that we couldn't put all of our eggs into one basket with TV Week. We needed to spread our wings and either start new magazines or acquire new magazines. And that's what we've done. And so we've probably got about 17 or 18 different publications. Some are for clients, some we own. And so we're looking for ways to do what we do.
Yeah, and it is great that CanadaWide Media has actually grown into a multimedia company. For you, what is the most important, or shall I say, yes, most important habit to become successful as an individual and as a company?
Well, I think there are several habits that you need to acquire. You need to understand that if you're going to be successful at your business, it takes a lot of hard work over a long period of time. It doesn't happen instantaneously. And you'll make right decisions. You'll also make wrong decisions. And you better sort those wrong decisions out quickly and beg for forgiveness if you have to, and get those out of your life, out of your way, and get back on track. So that's happened to us. And I dare say it's happened to most businesses that had good years and bad years. But when you make a commitment for long term, you can weather the storm. If you're only in it for a short period of time and something goes wrong, you'll be out of business. But when you know that things will go wrong next month, next year, next 5 years, and you plan on that, you don't even know what it is yet, but something will happen, and you just adjust to it. So I think being calm, being rational, treating your staff with the greatest respect, because they have individual gifts and talents that I don't have, but you encourage them to do the best job they can with what they have. And it's amazing how men and women will rise to the occasion when they're encouraged and they felt cared for and they felt respected and they feel like they're contributing to the enterprise that you're doing. So it's encouragement might be a good one. You got to encourage every single day. You've got to also admonish if things are going wrong that they're responsible for. How do you tactfully correct them and have them see, that's why that's not working? And they make the decision to move on to something else. I'm doing this wrongly. So I would think dealing with men and women that work for you and respecting their individual gifts, but encouraging them and leading them gently into the right decision.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have seen how you work as your EA. I've seen that you work like a 40-year-old energetic man. How do you stay energetic and positive and enthusiastic every single day?
I'm often asked that question, and I don't really know the answer. I guess it's my love of life, and I'm in pretty good health for some of my age. My next birthday is a couple of months away, and I'm 80 years old. And people say, I can't believe that you're 80 years old with your energy and your enthusiasm and the things that you do. So God has been very kind to me and given me resources that allow me to express what my views are. Over the years, I think from even high school, I was very creative in terms of solving a problem. And still today, I would go to a client and they give me a whole sort of problems that they're going through that we're not involved with, but I try and help him solve those problems creatively. And that would endear us to him or them. And that has worked for us too. And trying to be consistent. We're the same people we are today as we were yesterday, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Hopefully we're getting better, but we have the same qualities and the same beliefs in life.
Yeah. For the past year, it has been very challenging for all of us because of the pandemic. But CanadaWide Media has survived and has even thrived amidst the pandemic. What do you think are the values and practices that led the company to thrive despite the pandemic?
Well, I believe over the years, our clients have come to trust us and believe us. And what we say we will do, we actually do. And if we can't do it, we'll tell them we can't do it, but we'll direct them as to where they might go to get that problem solved. So honesty is still the best policy. I don't know who wrote that many years ago, but we tell it exactly like it is. We don't pussyfoot around. We say, we can't do that, but we can do this. Or we can augment your idea, your dreams, and we can do something else. So I would think that we're trusted. People trust us very much, and they know that we'll do the very best job we can with everything we commit to.
Yeah, that's right. Apart from being an author, you are also a voracious book reader, and you, in fact, advocate for people to read at least one book a week. But if there's one book that you would recommend for everyone to read, what book would that be and why?
Well, I would encourage people to read J.B. Phillips' New Testament of the Bible. It's written in everyday language and it's very easy to understand. That would be the number one book. But that's not to persuade you that you should be or shouldn't be a Christian. But beyond that, I read books on leadership. I read motivational books. I read books that would inspire me, encourage me. And I'm always reading a book with a yellow marker. So page after page, there's like a couple of paragraphs underlined. So when I go back to that book, I say, now, why did I underline that idea? And those are ideas that I can put into place. And I'll give you an example. There was a book recently published a couple of years ago called Atomic Habits. And in the book, the author writes about this gentleman who was a banker who had a little box of paper clips, and he had 100 paper clips in the box. And he wouldn't leave his desk until he had made 100 phone calls a day. And every phone call, he'd take a paper clip and put it in an empty one. He did that for years and years and years. He became the #1 banker in North America. And guess where he lived? Abbotsford.
Small town.
Abbotsford. That's the practice. So I said to my sales staff, get 100 paper clips, or get 50 paper clips, or get 10 paper clips, and make those phone calls every day. Make contact with, just don't make the phone call, nobody's there. Make contact with somebody every day and ask them the questions. And it's amazing what you can do. If the guy can do it, if he can be the #1 sales banker in North America from Abbotsford, we certainly can do that here in Vancouver.
For sure. What do you consider your best trait?
My best trait. I'd like to think my best trait is that I'm a creative thinker, which works well when you're selling, because I'm taking an issue to you, and then in a conversation, I discover you've got 3 other different problems or issues that you're working with, but you haven't got an answer to. And so I'm able to say, well, I think if you did this, this, and this, whatever the issue is, that you can creatively get out of those problems in the next couple of weeks. People love when you bring them like 10 ideas, realizing that 7 or 8 of the ideas are rubbish anyway, but that's okay. But as long as you can get the 10 ideas out, in those 10 ideas, there's 2 or 3 gems. So how do you apply those gems to your business and to your life and to your situation so that you can be better? Because everybody wants to be better. So how do we do that? We have to make a decision purposely. And for me, it's reading books and reading about what people have done and what people haven't done. And I'm shocked at what people haven't done, which is easy to do, but they don't do it. So reading a book a week is a privilege. And I've got some abstract authors, and I've got the good authors. I love it.
And you are an author yourself too.
I do. Well, I probably became an author after reading like maybe 1,000 books. I thought I should put some of my ideas on paper. Yeah. So I started drafting what I would write about, and it worked.
You are an author, a professional speaker, a business leader, but every person is better at one thing that they do compared to others. For you, what do you think do you do best?
I think the best gift I've got is the ability to speak to an audience of 10 or 1,010 or what have you. God gifted me with a special way of speaking, and it's not special. It's a matter of timing. It's a matter of being able to tell stories. It's about how to read an audience, how to express what they're going through, because you've done your research and you maybe have 500 people in the audience. What are they going through, and how can you help them get to the promised land, whatever it happens to be? God has given me that gift, so I better use it. There's no sense having a gift and not use it. There's no sense having a gift and sitting on it. There's no sense having a gift and not expressing it, and not, for me, trying to motivate people and get them excited about life. Life is very short. My good friend Joe Siegel, I wrote a book on him called The Runway of Life. And the runway of life, we've been friends for 50, 60 years. He said, if you take a piece of paper and you draw a straight line from one side to the other, and that represents, let's say, 80 years or 90 years, at some point, you're going to run out of runway. You could put 100, you could put 120, but you know, once you get past 80, 85, 90, that runway becomes very, very short. So 80 years is not nearly as long as we think it is. So we have to maximize every day to be the very best that we can be. So that's what I try and do, and encourage other people to do that.
I cannot help but notice how loved you are by the community, by the people you talk to. They always admire you and they always share their thoughts about how you have helped them, how you have impacted their life positively. But you, presumably, have also been influenced by other people. So the question is, who has influenced you to become who you are today?
Well, in the business world, I'd have to start with my good friend Joe Siegel. I actually called on him when he owned a little field store on West Hastings Street, and he's never bought anything from me ever. Well, I worked at a radio station; he didn't buy, but we just hit it off, and so he has become my mentor for the last 50 or 60 years. And I know I can take any question or any challenges that I have that I can't figure out and say, Joe, how would you handle this? And he'll tell me, and I would say 9 out of 10 things he's told me, I've put into effect in my life, and they've really helped me. So my respect and admiration for him and my love for him continues to rise. So how can I do that for people that ask me? When people ask me, because people bring me issues. How do we do this? How do we do that? And it could be business, could be sales, could be the staff issue, could be an expansion issue. And so I will give my honest opinion, creative opinion of how they might execute that dream. And if I give them 3 or 4 ideas, one of them in there will work. All 5 won't work, but one of them will work.
You are very generous with your time and with your ideas, and you are very much open, you listen. And I think that's one of the best things about you as well. But I must say, people are very thankful for what you have done and continue to do, and you have a philanthropic heart. How do you develop a philanthropic heart, Peter?
I think you are encouraged, probably by God, that there are other people who need not only your help, your verbal help and your encouragement, but they also need money. And so to the best of my ability, God encourages us to give back to those who are needy. And he will replenish that and more as the year goes on. So I'm not sure I totally believe that at the very beginning, but it's true today. If someone is in need and I can help them, I'll help them. And I'll forget about it. And then in 6 months, something completely unexpected will happen. We might get a magazine, we might get a contract, I might get a big speaking gig, I might get something that I wasn't expecting, which I credit from doing something to help somebody 6 months ago. And it works all the time. It doesn't work instantaneously. And you might do something today, but you might not get the rewards for that for 6 or 7 months, maybe even a year, but you will benefit.
What do you consider your greatest achievement in life so far?
My greatest achievement is staying married to my wife, Kay, for over 53 years, and having 3 beautiful, talented daughters. One is in the business, one is president of CanadaWide, one is looking after her 3 kiddies, and the third one, Amanda, is a school teacher. So still having a great relationship with them and seeing them quite often, and still being in love with my wife. And even just this morning, giving her a big hug and a kiss and saying, I love you, sweetie pie, after 53 or 54 years. I don't think that happens to a lot of people. So I treasure her. Now, we've had punch-ups, which is an English phrase for arguments over the years, as most married people have done. but that's become less and less over the years, and because we know time is slipping by.
Peter, obviously, you've had a lot of impact on a lot of people being a community leader that you are. But for you, what do you think is the biggest impact you've had on anyone?
I would like to think the biggest impact I've had on anyone is to encourage them, to have them believe in themselves, believe they're not junk, that they are fearfully and wonderfully made, and that they can achieve just about anything that they really set their minds to. We can't do everything, and we can't all be as wealthy as Jimmy Patterson or Joe Siegel, and that's okay. But we can accomplish infinitely more than we think we can. But we have got to do the work. We've got to read the books, and we've got to practice, and we've got to test our skills. And we may have to ask, if you're a client that I'm trying to sell you something and it's not working, I would say, help me understand what I did was wrong, or how I could have done this better, because the sale is over. And they'll tell you. They say, oh, yeah, that's right. So I'll write that down, and I'll make sure I don't do that again. So none of us are perfect, but we can keep working on it until the day we die to try and be better human beings.
Your book, Under the Influence, tells us about how influence shaped the person we become. For you, what do you think makes an influence, or how can you make an influence?
The easiest way is to set the example. In your language, I don't hear anyone swearing at CanadaWide. That doesn't mean they don't when I'm not here, but I don't hear that. I don't. Nobody swears around me. That becomes a habit. That's a great positive habit. Well, what else can I, how do I improve myself? We've only got so much time in life to get better at what we want. And I believe God wants us to be the very best human being alive on the planet. He wants the very best for us. And so I want the very best for you. So how do I encourage you as my EA to be the best you can be? And you've got some great skills. When you came from the Philippines a couple of years ago, you're magnetic, you're enthusiastic, you're consistent every day. And those are all qualities that a lot of people don't have. And sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. I don't think you're faking it. So you've got to be excited about today. You can't afford to waste today, because today could be your last day. And if it were your last day, wouldn't you want to kiss your husband or your wife goodbye and say, sweetie pie, I love you. I'll see you tonight for dinner. Of course you would. Wouldn't you want to be as impactful to your staff as you could, because you might not see them tomorrow? Wouldn't you want to be the best lunch companion today, because you might not have lunch tomorrow? And not in a negative way, but in a positive way. If you applied that to every aspect of your life, guess what? You're going to move ahead.
Yeah,
You just are going to move ahead.
that's true. You making each day count and
Every day
making
counts.
every encounter count. Yeah. Finally, Peter, what is your prayer?
My prayer is to still stay married to Kay until I die. She is the best wife I could ever possibly have. And I want to spend my retirement life, if I do decide to retire. People can't believe I'm almost 80. So why on earth would you retire? You're only about 65 years of age. That's just my energy level. But I'm getting old, and so I want to spend as much time with her as I can. So my prayer would be that I would still be in love with her on the day when I say goodbye to her.
That is beautiful, Peter. One very much in love man. Thank you so much for doing this. You are very generous with your time and with your talents, and of course with your heart. Thank you so much. And I wish you all the best. Continue to inspire all of us. You are one great leader and you are an influence. Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Charie.
Thank you for watching Life Expressions.